everybody. Happy Saturday. How great to see of us here. America's Warehouse. Wow. I love it. We're fired up. We got a country to save. We're going to talk about the border. We have some of the brightest minds who are going to bring us the truth and the transparency in the field on policy of what is actually happening. Starting at the end here, you know him, you watch him, Ben Bergquam, the host of Law and Order, Real America's Voice. He truly is on the front lines, and he is the director of Frontline America. He exposes what we know is the left's lies, the media that's complicit, that will not cover the truth. That's what's happening at our border. He puts his life in danger sometimes doing it, and we really appreciate it. Ben Bergquam, everybody. And in the center here, Robert Law, who serves as a director for the Center for Homeland Security and Immigration. He's the senior editor, folks, at AFPI. He knows what it's like when we had policies that worked, because from 2017 to 2021, he served in the Trump administration. He was a senior policy advisor, chief of policy at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services within the Department of Homeland Security. More than a decade. Rob's so skilled in all the policy, what needs to be implemented and what was taken down. So he's going to expose some of the things that they're telling us and trying to lie to Americans about. And this man joins me quite a bit on Newsmax. Always happy to have Mark Morgan on with me. You know, Mark was the acting commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, where he oversaw 60,000 employees. He managed the budget, which was over $13 billion, and he ensured that there was effective border policies. The CBP's mission to protect our national security was something that was paramount and something that this man was able to make sure was happening. He has a 20-year career with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He is such a national treasure, and we are so excited to kick things off. So just one more warm welcome as we start this panel, everybody. Okay, we definitely want to take questions, so we're going to keep everything moving. We have a slide here we're going to put up and show you. This is the slide that Donald Trump turned his head and a bullet missed him by millimeters, and it saved his life. Divine intervention, no doubt. Mark, this was the border encounters. You know, I think a lot of Americans are saying, how did we get here? We know the border is the worst security crisis in our lifetime. You compare it, you look at this chart. What was going on when Donald Trump was in? And look at the disaster that is unmitigated now under Biden-Harris.
Well, first of all, we got here because President Trump is no longer president.
Closer. You gotta put, yeah.
I gotta
try
test.
this.
Is that better? All right, they gave me the defective mic. So look, the reality here, and this isn't political for me, we got here because President Trump is no longer president.
Yeah.
That's the reality. When I was commissioner, I was, as Bianca said, I was on the front lines of our nation's borders. And I'm telling you, again, this is apolitical. President Trump gave us a network of tools, authorities, and policies that gave me the ability to effectuate the most secure border in our lifetime. And that chart, Bianca's absolutely right. That is the chart. And by the way, I have to give credit to Senator Johnson and his staff. Senator Johnson's staff created this chart. So, quick side story. I texted Senator Johnson the day after assassination attempt, and I said, "Hey, by the way, Senator, you literally saved President Trump's life."
Amen.
So,
that's right.
True. So real quick. So the chart. Just a couple of minutes. So obviously, you look at the right of the chart. You see the numbers go skyrocketing. But what I wanted you to do is go to the right and then go follow it to the left. And that very low part. Guess where that was? The last year of the Trump administration, right? Yeah. That's what we got us. And remember, and I'm going to be very straight with you, and that was even after the Republicans failed you. The Republicans in Congress failed this nation. Remember, the Republicans had the White House, the House, and the Senate the first 2 years of Trump administration. They failed to pass a single piece of meaningful border security legislation. So what did we do? We had to look to President Trump to use his authorities to give us that network of tools and authorities we needed to secure the border.
Can I just, and then I just want to be very clear. Day one, Biden dismantled the Trump policies. He didn't wait, folks. It was like immediately Title 42, remain in Mexico.
That's right. Bianca, that's a very good point. If anybody questions, first of all, look at the numbers because numbers don't lie. There's no nation on the face of the planet that can sustain almost 11 million total nationwide encounters in 3.5 years and 2 million known gotaways from 180 different countries. There's no country in the nation of this planet that can sustain that. And what happened, this is very important, Bianca's point, it was intentional.
Yeah.
It was not because of incompetence. It was not a mistake. It was intentional. And I'll give you a couple of bullet points. One is that after the election, during the transition, DHS, we provided the Biden transition team over 200 security briefings, of which the majority of them were on the border security. And we told them, if you do what you said you were going to do during the campaign, you will create a degree of chaos and lawlessness at our borders that you have never seen before. And they dismissed us. They dismissed career officials once they got in, and they got rid of every single tool that we had, like the asylum and cooperative agreements, like the Remain in Mexico program, like Title 42. They neutered ICE. They could no longer do their job to remove those that are here illegally across the board. So make no mistake, this was an intentional, and that's what we got because of the Biden administration's policies.
Yeah. All right, that's amazing. Thank you for kicking that off. You know, Ben knows firsthand the Darien Gap, which is one of the most dangerous, treacherous path-throughs. He's been there. This was... when you go down there, you have some of your props here to show us, but this was organized. This is actually pretty smooth now because it is all intentional, to Mark's point. Tell us what you saw down in the Darien Gap, because they make it quite easy for people from all around the world to make this trek here.
Yeah, we just finished, myself and Oscar Blue Ramirez, my partner from Real America's Voice and Law and Border. Yeah, shout out to Oscar down in Mexico. We just finished our 4th trip across the Darien. We came with the flow once, starting in Colombia, came across Panama, and then we attempted to go back 3 times. We finally made it back the 3rd time. The 2nd time, we were in a shootout with the Gulf Cartel. We were guided by Senate Front Special Forces every time. 2nd time, they killed 1, captured 2 others, we had to be evac'd out. 3rd one, we got washed out because of the torrential rain. 4th one, we just finally made it across. But a couple things. I'm going to play a couple of videos for you so you get an idea of the scale of what we're talking about. You know, charts give you numbers, but really when you see the video, and I call my reporting show and tell. You know, I'm sick of the mainstream media, the fake news media, lying to you, telling you lies, knowingly telling you lies. And so I just decided to go out when I started this several years ago and just show you with my camera and then let you decide for yourself. This is a rape kit, we call it, we lovingly call it, from the Darien Gap. This was what was given. We actually witnessed them, exposed them, and broke the story. The United Nations and this group CARE give this pack out to women and children before they go across the Darien Gap. It's full of condoms, birth control, morning after pills, because they know the women are going to get raped. And instead of saying, don't do that, they say, here's your rape kit, now on your way.
Yeah.
They send them through the Darien, and then they receive them on the other side. And every point along the way, they're fundraising, they're making money, they're guiding and directing and enabling and encouraging people to make this journey at the expense.
It's a big grift. The NGOs are part of it.
Absolutely. The United Nations is really the tip of the spear, but you've got Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, Jewish Family Services, 9 major organizations, and hundreds of little subsidiaries that are profiting off of this.
Let's look at the videos.
Yep. So
really
if we'll play if you guys are ready up there, let's play the boats. So yeah, 116 boats. So this is from one of our last trips up the river. Now this is out in the middle of nowhere. We're in Embera territory. We go from Guna to Embera. And as you're watching this video, we count the boats. And then as the boats are going by, we're counting where these people are coming from, where the states or the countries they're coming from. The previous trip before this, the highest number of boats on one trip we'd seen was 24. On this boat trip, we saw 116 boats. And this was in the last year.
And there's no media down here. You could go down, any news organization could go down and see this, but they choose deliberately not to.
And the ones that have, the New York Times has gone down several times, and they just simply lie about what they see. They do not tell you the truth. So this is the first one. If we can go to the second one, Lajas Blancas, guys, when you're ready for that one. And it's just boat after boat after boat. They're from every country you can imagine in the world. Obviously South America, Central America, but Iran, Egypt, China, huge numbers coming from China, all over the world. Guys, if you're ready, let's play that second video of Lajas. So this is what it looks like in one of the indigenous villages called Lajas Blancas. It's the last indigenous village, or it's the first one they get to once they get off the river. And again, this is one route. So there's 3 major routes going through the Darien. There's 10 or so smaller routes that end up, they're basically like tributaries of a river that all end up coming together. At this point, this last year, there were 4,000 to 5,000 people per day coming into this camp of 200 people, the indigenous tribe that lives there. Yeah. A couple things on that. The indigenous communities are being wiped out, they're being destroyed, their economies are being basically remade in the illegal immigration industry. And so they're destroying their culture, they're trashing the jungle. The last estimate was around 60,000 tons of trash are now in the rivers of Panama. So all of the people that claim to care about the environment, they claim to care about children and being humanitarian, they're just liars. Everything they do is a lie. And every single one of these people ended up at our southern border, and the vast majority of them have been let in. And now they're not at the border, they're in your neighborhoods.
They're in Aurora, they're in El Paso, they're everywhere. And they're then raping and murdering innocent women and children. Lakin Riley, Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Nungare. I mean, we say their names, we cover them, but oddly didn't come up once with those ABC moderators, huh? How about that?
It's sick.
Is there another video you want me to go on to
we'll
Rob?
hold off on the others
Okay,
till
great.
next.
You know, Rob, I'm looking at this, and there is a huge flow of people, and it's unsustainable. We don't know who they are. They're not properly vetted yet. They will try to lie, and it even did come up at the debate. They tried to always, and it just irritates me, they try to say there was that bipartisan bill, the Lankford bill. And we know that that's just propaganda. We know what it is. But for most folks, they're kind of saying, oh, yeah, maybe there was. This is a complete fabrication of the radical left. This is a complete distortion of what was going on because of what Mark said and because of what Ben just showed us. So when they lie and they come out to undecided voters, because everyone here in this room is going to go out and get other people who might be undecided, and they're going to sway them. But the truth is, they've been deliberately bringing them over, and most likely because they want them to vote. We'll get into that as well.
Well, you're absolutely right, and thank you, everybody. How many people believe that Kamala Harris is serious about border security? No? That's how you know the bill that she supports is not border security. Let's be clear about what that bill is that she supports. That's a bill that would have mandated about 2 million illegal aliens to cross the border in a given year, minimum, guaranteed. And then what happens when they do cross the border? It mandates nationwide catch and release, which means they go into American communities. They don't stay at the border. They go everywhere. It gives hundreds of billions of dollars to those very NGOs that are spending your taxpayer dollars on rape kits and things of that nature, who are really in partnership with the cartels. There's zero provisions to remove illegal aliens. There's zero deterrence policies. There's no bringing back Remain in Mexico or renegotiating the asylum cooperative agreements, any of that stuff. And so let's be very clear when we're talking about legislation. Number one, there's enough authority on the books to secure the border. How do I know that? President Trump used those exact same authorities to create the most secure border in our nation's history.
Executive.
Exactly. Number two, the Senate bill is garbage. It's not a border bill. It's an immigration bill. It's essentially the precursor to a mass amnesty bill. And number three, speaking of that, you know what legislation Kamala Harris does support as part of the DNC platform? The U.S. Citizenship Act. And that sounds nice and innocent, but if you look at it, that is an amnesty for literally not only the entire illegal alien population in the United States, including criminals and human traffickers, it also requires on your taxpayer dollars the return of illegal aliens that President Trump deported to come back and get amnesty as well. That is what their platform is, and it is clearly—
It's a double down.
It's absolutely a double down. Yep.
So when we look at the border, it's national security, it's deadly drugs of fentanyl that we know they're producing in Mexico with China's help, because that's obviously, you know, the adversaries, they know how to kill us, take us out. But then you also have the children, the innocent lives that are, not only are they raped coming over, then they're sold into sex trade. They're not even, these are lives that are destroyed, the most innocent, vulnerable lives. And then you have the sustainability of, like, economically, this is economic warfare, because how do cities and towns like Springfield take in 20,000 people, and also the jobs that they are being taken. So we want to talk with you, Mark, about why every state is a border state, but it's it's not just, those are like 4 prongs we just talked about. So the issue of every state being a border state is compounded by all the problems people face. Crime and economic, and go into that a little.
That's exactly right. And while it's true that there are individuals that are here illegally that are eating animals, let's not get distracted with that, okay? Because what Springfield, Ohio represents is what Bianca just said, right? It represents what we've been saying for a very long time, that every town, city, and state in this nation is a border town, city, and state. The chaos and lawlessness at our borders that's been brought on by the Harris-Biden open border policies does not stay on the southwest border. Yes, the border states receive the brunt of it, but I promise you, the drugs, the criminals, the national security threats, the tax burden on U.S. taxpayers does not stay on the border states. Springfield, Ohio, Aurora, Colorado, those are just 2 recent examples that I think finally we're waking up and we're talking about it as we should. And real quick, back to the chart. The reason why the numbers matter, we cannot get numb to the numbers, because when you invade our country with 11 million total nationwide encounters, over 2 million gotaways, our limited resources on the front lines, they're pulled away from their law enforcement and national security mission. They're relegated to performing the duties of a federal travel agency. That leaves the border wide open, unmanned, unpatrolled for the cartels to exploit, to push the drugs, criminals, and national security threats through. That's happening every single day. That's why, unequivocally, I say that the deaths of Laken Riley, of Jocelyn, of Rachel Morin, their blood rests on the hands of Harris and Biden, and there's no issue with that. And we have to continue to fight, and we have to continue to stand up. And John and I were talking real quick, and I'm doing a sidebar. Apologize, Bianca, but real quick. So today, I'm glad you're here. I took a video of you because I'm going to go and I'm going to amplify that. So my question is, after you leave tonight, what are you going to do? What are you going to do tonight? What are you going to do tomorrow? Well, I'm hoping that you're going to talk to 3 friends, and then you're going to browbeat them to talk to 3 friends, and get out there and vote. Vote early, vote often, go everywhere you can to harvest ballots and do it, right? And the last thing, I promise I'll get to your real question.
It's good.
So the cost. So Mark Green, the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, when he was holding his 6-prong impeachment hearing against Secretary Mayorkas, which we got through that, right, at least the House, and Secretary Mayorkas should have been impeached, he estimated that right now, you, all of us, that the flow of illegal immigration coming to this country has cost you almost $500 billion. $500 billion, while you are having a hard time paying your mortgage, rent, groceries, the list goes on. Everything I just mentioned, you are paying to give that to an illegal alien free of charge every single day. That's unconscionable. That's not the American way. And the last thing I'll say about this, Springfield, Ohio, if you haven't looked at it, just Google it real quick. It's a population of under 60,000. They've been invaded and increased their population within the last 18 months by 30% of illegal aliens. So think about that. Every aspect of their education, their public safety services, fire, a police department, medical, it's all overwhelmed. They're tapped out. And you've got Springfield, Ohio of 60,000, and you've got the mayor of New York, the most powerful nation on the face of the planet, saying they're tapped out too. It's going to destroy New York. So that's why we say every town, city, and state is a border town, city, and state.
That's right. Well said. Well said, Mark. And it's the coordination too, because now we know, and Ben, you can pick up the fact that the cartels are profiting so much off all of this. And Mexico turns a blind eye. They're not going to, try to do anything. Venezuela doesn't want their folks to go back in their jails. They're perfectly happy that their crime rates are going down. The FBI will try to twist it and say that the crime isn't a problem. Crime's a serious problem. I think even in Middle America, folks are seeing that now, and it's elections with consequences. And you have some amazing information, not just on the cartels, Ben, but also some information on Chicago.
Yeah, so one of the things, real quick, when they lie to you and say crime is down, this is in most cities where you've got these Soros-backed DAs that no longer prosecute. So crime may be down, but it's because we're not prosecuting that crime. The crime is still continuing. The victims are increasing, but the The number of criminals are just simply being let out, or you've got the revolving door. I want to play, we talk about Springfield, we talk about Aurora, Colorado. We've been covering this for months and months and months. This is a video from Chicago from almost a year ago. These are Tren de Agua members. They are part of you can see the warehouse in the background. That warehouse had 3,500 illegals in it. These guys were outside. We happened to walk up there. This is my friend Terry Newsom out of Chicago, standing up, fighting back against this. We just happened to be walking out. We were doing a report on it. These guys were selling drugs on the corner. They have no license plates on their vehicles. They're driving around without driver's licenses, without license plates. So we started filming them. They didn't like that very much. They threatened our lives, and we ended up, standing there exposing what they're doing. But this is a daily occurrence out there, and we're being told by Chicago PD they can't do anything about it. They can't deal with these guys. Basically, unless they're shooting you in the street, there's nothing that they're going to do.
Lawlessness.
Yes, and so Aurora's like this, Chicago's like this, New York is like this, but every city in America is going to be like this, because we're talking about organizations and criminals that are used to killing. Their entire life, they have grown up killing, murdering, and that's how they get through life. And it's not just Tren de Agua. It is the Solis cartel that is being sent up directly from Venezuela, which is the Venezuelan cartel, which has direct ties to Hezbollah, Hamas, and they are working with these countries to undermine our country from within. So every city, every state has this now.
And they're called MS-13 on steroids, and their reputation in Latin America is they're known as cop killers. So down in Bolivia, when you say that, people shudder in fear. I work with a producer who's from Venezuela. She goes, I have trouble just reporting on these stories and covering them, Bianca, because I know the terror that these people have unleashed. These are monsters beyond monsters. Yeah. And that's their MO. They're known to go and they just kill cops.
Yeah. And again, this is my friend Michael Yan. He's been down there. He was actually the first guy who took me down to the border. And he makes a statement, and I think it's the best way to say it. There's certain fish that don't mix well in the same pond. And when you look at the people that are coming up, again, going back to Springfield, Ohio, there's a reason why we have an immigration process in America. There's a reason why we have a vetting process in America, because not everyone's culture aligns with our culture. Not even everyone's values align with our values. And there has to be an assimilation process to where you come in and you understand, but even before you come in, what you're coming into. We are the greatest nation in the history of the world because we protect this nation. We were created on Judeo-Christian values, that life is precious from the womb to death, to natural death. And we have a culture coming in, and we have cultures from around the world that don't align with that. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, but sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned a word that's very important. We got to get this out there. Vetting, right? Yeah. He mentioned vetting. There is no vetting going on. It's a big lie. None. Every single time that anybody from this administration says that individuals we encounter are properly vetted to ensure that they don't pose a threat before they release them is a lie. Talk to Laken Riley's family. That's right. Talk to Rachel Morin's family. We encounter those individuals. Think about it, common sense. We get a single adult male from Venezuela. We have zero diplomatic relationship with Venezuela. We have no idea what their criminal history is. But I can promise you, you don't go from an upstanding citizen on Friday when you encounter you to a savage or rapist murder on Monday morning. It doesn't happen. So this administration is intentionally letting murderers, rapists, pedophiles, aggravated felons, and gang members enter our country every single day into your town, city, and state.
Let me just highlight that. So this also, not only this rape kit, I've added some other things into it. These are IDs that I found all over the border. And I have bags of these at home to the point where my wife says, stop bringing this crap home. It's passports from all over the world. This guy is from India, Sri Lanka. We've got Bangladesh. And then all of these IDs are actually from Mexico. So these are people sometimes, and you ask why they drop their IDs. Some of it's for that, so that we don't know who they really are. Some of it is these guys have already been given safe harbor in Mexico. Yeah. You no longer qualify for asylum in America if you've already been given protection somewhere else. And it goes on and on. I have
180 different
bags, bags and bags and bags. And just to show you, though, the lie of the border. Can I go to the next video?
Yeah, please, go for it.
So the lie of the border. I just came back from the border. By the way, I'm going to be giving these. I'll clean all this mess up after we're done up here, guys. I have this in a bag. So let me talk about what you're seeing here. Top of this mountain. This was 2 days ago. That's a Sinaloa cartel member up on top of a mountaintop. That's right outside of Nogales, Arizona. That's the wall. You can see it now. We're on the Mexico side filming this. This is on every single major crossing point on our southern border.
Yep.
We have Mexican military, cartel military. It's basically a military force for the cartel operating there. That's a wide open stretch. There's a gap there that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have not built. Kamala Harris is a liar. She is not going to build more wall. The only thing she is doing is tricking the American people into thinking that she cares about that. These guys are operational. They have operational control of our border. We no longer do. And going back to Mark's point, when we send over these illegals that are coming in claiming fake asylum, all of that is part of this plan. So you take hundreds. I've been down there where we have thousands of illegals coming across in a single day. No Border Patrol resources to deal with it. As soon as those guys are taken out, you've got the drug traffickers coming through, you've got the sex trafficking coming through, you have everything else. And every single one of those people is controlled by the cartels. Every single one of them either pays the cartel to come across or they're owned by the cartel once they get here. Mexico is a failed narco state for the most part. They are basically controlled by the cartels at this point. I think the major thing I want you guys to take away from this, going back to Mark's point, what are you going to do with this? By the way, share all of our episodes. We have a new episode of Law and Border coming out next Saturday, Real America's Voice News, americasvoice.news. Download it, share it with everyone you know. Say, this is the truth, all 27 episodes for the last 4 years. So basically, we've chronicled from when Joe Biden stole the office to where we're at today, and the controlled flows by Secretary Mayorkas, which are basically inviting the invasion, all of that. Share that with everybody and demand that when we take this country back, because if we don't get it back in November, we're screwed. I don't know how we turn this country around. And even when we get it back, we are in a civil war against traitors in our own country that want to destroy this country. But what we have to do is demand that every single politician that has supported this is investigated for potentially being paid off by the cartels.
Yeah.
Because my concern is they own Mexico,
Yeah,
but the truth is they own many politicians in America already.
I mean,
And
it's dereliction of duty. It's treason.
It is
And you're
treason.
right. They do have operational control of the border because Arizona's terrible. I was interviewing J.D. Vance at the border, and a drone operated from the Mexican side was flying over us. And guess what? They couldn't shoot it down.
Yep.
We had MORTAC there. They couldn't shoot it down. They said, we'd have to call and actually get authority from Alejandro Mayorkas. I mean, it's a joke. So they can surveil a vice presidential candidate weeks after an assassination attempt on former president. They can be that close. It's
by the way, Bianca,
Yeah.
I have, and I was there that same day. There were 2 drones in the air, and Bortak said, that, like you said, they couldn't do anything about it.
they couldn't do anything.
By the way, this is
We're
a
sitting
gift.
ducks.
So talking about show and tell, if people need IDs or whatever, I've got some of those I can give out. These are the new fashion accessory. They call them carpet shoes. Now, this is the new design, Mark. I don't know if you've seen this one. The old carpet shoes actually had carpet on the bottom. These ones are basically like a sombrero that they turned into carpet shoes. What they do is they'll take these, they'll put them over their feet so that when you're running along the southern border, we can't, and it's dusty. I haven't cleaned them yet. That we can't see your footprints. That's the idea, is so that Border Patrol can't see it. So one lucky audience member, if you're not worried about dirt and nastiness, you'll be able to take this home today. But this is,
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I was itchy all day yesterday after I was
I
playing
want to
with
make
it,
sure
but-
we get to questions, and I want to make sure we get to Rob to talk about the SAVE Act, because it is critical. Because you have to ask, okay, all of these things, this is horrible. We love this country. Why are they doing this? Why would they do this? No, you can't even go into Canada without documentation. Why are people allowed to come in here unvetted, to Mark's point, and then we just put them on airplanes. We fly them wherever they want to go, and then they don't assimilate, and they're in our world. And they're here for decades, systemic problems. You can start the deportations, but trust me, some of the bad guys are going to hide. So we have SAVE Act. We have an act that would basically say you cannot vote in our election if you're not here legally. We know they've done workarounds where people get driver's licenses and they're not legal, so then they go to vote, they show a driver's license. It's complicated, but why wouldn't anyone who loves this country be against making sure we have safe and secure elections? And that's what the SAVE Act does, Rob.
Well, you're exactly right, and it's very clear that, number one, if you don't have a secure border, you're not a nation, and if you don't have secure elections, you're not a nation as well. And so what we have going on right now is an orchestrated effort to give millions of illegal aliens driver's licenses and work permits, and what that does is that gets them eligibility to be on the voter rolls.
Let that sink in.
On the
I mean,
voter
that's
rolls.
happening now.
Yeah, so you've already broken our immigration laws, and supposedly you're going to opt out and say, no, don't put me on the voter roll. You're going to do that. And so few states require photo ID, so anybody can show up. We know that we have dirty voter rolls because the America First Policy Institute has partnered with a lot of states in this election cycle, and they have gone through and they've looked at their voter rolls. And in some cases, you've had tens or even hundreds of thousands of ineligible voters who are on that list.
These are in battleground states too. Pennsylvania is one of, like, they know where to go.
They know exactly where to go.
Arizona.
And, you know, this is exactly part of where are they placing all the illegal aliens that they're importing into American communities. It's not random, it is intentional. And so it's against the law, and that's what the Democrats and Kamala Harris will say, oh, there's no voter fraud. Well, if there's no voter fraud, then why won't you support the SAVE Act, which simply says you must prove that you are a U.S. citizen in order to be handed a ballot on Election Day or ahead of time?
And don't, you know, this is not anti-immigrant. My father was born in Mexico and he came across legally. This is not anti-immigrant. This is about
Legally.
Yes, exactly. There is a process. We need to respect it. But when you have people who are coming across, and we're in New York, 9/11, 23 years later. How can people not? I mean, we talk a lot on our shows here when you come on Newsmax. It's not a matter of if, but when. The fact that they have allowed this many people to come in, Mark, and it's still, I pray every day that nothing ever happens. But the fact that we have Iranians, Chinese, these people who hate us in here,
Bianca,
it's hard to sleep at night sometimes when you understand the gravity.
That's right. So listen to what she said, and I couldn't have said it better myself, and I agree. It's not if or when the national security threat comes to our country. It's already here, okay? Let that sink in. It's already here. I worked a CT for my entire bureau career. I'm telling you right now that our borders are more vulnerable now than they were prior to 9/11. And let me give you a couple of stats. In the past 3.5 years, Border Patrol alone have encountered over 380 illegal aliens on the FBI terror watch list. You know what it was under all 4 years of Trump administration combined? 12. At the northern border, which it went completely disowned, is that they've had over 1,000 illegal aliens on the FBI terror watch list try to come through our ports of entry. We've encountered hundreds of thousands of what we call special interest aliens from countries that we know sponsor, harbor, and facilitate terrorism, but we have no ability to vet them. If you're a single adult male from Lebanon, what are we going to do? Call the Lebanese government and say, hey, ring, ring, we just want to make sure this guy's not a member of Hezbollah before we release him, right? That's stupid. It's not happening. But we are encountering Lebanese males from at our border, and we are releasing in this country every single day.
They tried to breach Quantico. They had a Chinese national out near a military base in California. And the problem is it doesn't get reported on. Newsmax will report it. I'll report it on my show. I'll cover it. But we have a corrupt media, which is a whole other layer to this. We have a media that's complicit, that actually is more of a propaganda wing for this administration. And they don't have integrity anymore. We've lost a free and fair press, sadly, in America.
And that's why this is so important. It's not, we're preaching to the choir in this audience. What Mark said, I think, is the most important thing. If you get anything from this panel, it's what are you guys doing about it? Take this information, get it to your families, to the people that don't agree with us. That's the most important thing. Between now and the election, you have to get it to people that don't understand what's happening, because we're all in on it. We're all in, you're all in. We got to get to the others.
And to that point, that's where you have to be able to separate the rhetoric of Kamala Harris today versus the horrible results over the last 3.5 years. And you know that if she takes over, it will look like that on steroids. It'll be even worse.
We're going to take some questions. There's a microphone here if anyone wants to ask any of the gentlemen here or myself a question. We still
You got to be quick, though. We got 5 minutes. So like
round,
10-second questions,
speed
20-second
dating,
answers.
Speed border. Go ahead, sir. What's your first name?
My name's Warren. I'm kind of running a theme here. I'm trying to find out. We want to get to the bottom of everything. And I'm going to throw a name at you. Amy Pope. Who is Amy Pope? I never see her in the news. I never see her being reported on. Nobody seems to know who this woman is. She works with the IOM at the UN. You should see her glad-handing crazy tweets and other stuff about how she's bringing people around because of the weather, because of this, because of that, how they're infiltrating this country. And I'll tell you right now, I know it's not this idiot running against Trump. It's these people are puppets. You have the WEF, you have all those people pushing this around the world, and on the other side, you know who they need? They need Larry Fink And Vanguard and BlackRock, they need the bankers because these people are too stupid and lazy to even know how to balance their own checkbook.
Yeah.
But they need money to do their dirty deeds with the NGOs and everything else. And Michael Yon is a hero.
Yeah.
And
Thank
Ben,
you for
you're
your-
amazing.
thank
Your
you for your
work,
comments.
your work is just amazing.
Oh, yeah,
Who
it's-
is Amy Pope?
It is the deception here, and it is
And those organizations, you mentioned it, United
Yeah.
Nations, WEF, even World Economic, the WHO, all of these organizations are designed, are working to undermine America and the Western world.
And
What's
erode
happening in
Thank
Europe.
you.
borders.
Yes.
They want no borders.
No borders.
They want
Open
no
borders
borders.
is- open borders is big business.
No borders, no walls, no USA at all. That's the mindset of the base of
That's
the
right.
left.
And they're not stopping until they want the collapse of America.
And
for
when,
free.
when Trump gets back, I promise you, we're going to start building a wall again.
That's right. That's right. All right, we have this lovely lady up here. What's your name, miss? What's your question?
My name is Kim. Ben, I love your work. You're badass.
Yes.
But I'm wondering if any of you have heard about the FEMA camps that have been built across the country, which are intended to be used for those of us who don't comply.
So this is what I'll say, that my knowledge of FEMA, your hard-earned taxpayer dollars that's supposed to go in a fund, a housing disaster relief fund, right? So when there's a natural disaster in this country, that's where U.S. taxpayers are supposed to go to help out Americans that have been displaced or impacted by a natural disaster. Since day one, the Biden administration has been funneling that fund out of that process to go build facilities for illegal aliens. That's been happening since day one. And they're also funneling some of that off to the NGOs. So an illegal alien comes in, immediately we release in the United States, who they go to an NGO, who we give them everything they want, including a bus ticket and a plane ticket, anywhere that the illegal alien wants to go, and you're paying for it all.
Great.
And
Great
hotel rooms
question.
too.
Yeah, hotel, everything else.
Everything.
And just one other thing on that. So I've heard reporting about, I know where she was kind of going with the question. I haven't, so like I say, I do show and tell reporting.
Yeah.
Unless I know factually this is what's happening, I typically don't talk about it or speculate on it.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt our government doesn't have our best interests in mind. And all you have to do is look at what they've done to this point. And so,
Yeah.
what
Follow
they're-
the money, follow
That's
the
it.
funding.
That's it. But my thing is the low-hanging fruit. It's what's there right in your face right now. Go get that stuff, and you're exactly right. This is
And there's
it's
plenty
treason.
to- plenty
It's all
already there.
treason.
I'll always say, if you want to know where an administration's priorities and positions on policies are, follow the money.
Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Elena from Mineola.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone on the panel. My question is, President Trump had stated that he will immediately begin the greatest deportation exercise in our country. My question is that how he said he would be using the local sheriffs to help identify those individuals who are illegal aliens here, but also many of them, I think, they received cell phones. Would we be using geo-tracking like we had seen in 2000 Mule movie, or are there any other ways of identifying and finding them and capturing them so
It's
they
a
can
great
bring them
question.
back?
Yeah.
Yeah, great
287G?
question. The process.
Yeah. So I'm a knuckle
Thank you.
dragger. So I'm a knuckle dragger. I'm an operational guy. So this is my bailiwick, and as a commissioner, we oversaw worldwide operations. I get asked this all the time: how are you going to conduct the world's largest removal operation in this country? My first answer is one at a time. And I say that because we can't have a defeatist attitude. We can't say, oh, well, there's too many, so we're not going to do it. That's just stupid. That's not going to happen, especially under President Trump. So what we have is we have ICE. And within ICE, there's a subcomponent called ERO, Enforcement and Removal Operations. They are the best in the world at going out, tracking down some of this in the country illegally through a whole myriad of intelligence-driven, threat-based, operation-focused tactics that we can get it. But the way we're going to do that, though, is we're going to have to infuse ICE ERO with steroids. And they're going to continue to do what they've done since they were first created, and that's prioritize the criminals, the murderers, the rapists, the pedophiles, the aggravated felons, and gang members. That's where we're going to start with, and they're going to be busy for the next decade because of this administration.
And I would just say in closing, we have some of the best and the brightest in our government at the lower levels who want to do their job that are handcuffed by this administration. Their heart is in the right place. They hate to see what's happening.
God bless them.
And they don't want to be processing people. I've seen them on the front lines in Roma, Texas. They don't want to be doing. They hate this, and we got it. But we need it. So all the top. It's about the leadership on the way down, all the way down to the bottom there. So thank you. Great questions. So impressive. I guess we're out of time. We are out of time, but thank you so
And
much
thank you
for
to
allowing
AMAC
us
for
to
having
speak
this,
to you.
too. We
Yes.
appreciate you guys.
This is
AMAC,
great.
thank you. And to the great John Solomon.
Hey, should we do it like Cinderella? If the boot fits, they can have it.
All right, great job, guys. Say thank you to Bianca. What a great job moderating. Good job. Go get her book. The Right is Right. Pre-order it right now. What a great opportunity.